Hey, future CPAs, welcome. Today we're diving deep into a topic that you'll definitely see on your board exams, quasi-reorganizations. Let's master this thing.
Okay, let's set the scene. Imagine you've got this company, right? It has a solid business, great potential, but its financial history is, well, it's a mess. It's bogged down by years of losses, showing this huge, ugly deficit on the books. So what do? That's what this is all about. We're talking about the corporate reset button, a perfectly legal way for a fundamentally sound company to get a fresh start without the headache of creating a whole new legal entity.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack the problem, that big corporate deficit. Then we'll look at the fresh start solution itself. After that, we'll break down the two different ways you can do it, see how it completely transforms the balance sheet, and then we'll wrap it all up with a rapid-fire bullet review to lock this stuff in for your LECPA. Let's get into it.
All right, first up, what is the core problem that quasi-reorganization is designed to solve? Well, it all boils down to one thing: a deficit in retained earnings.
A deficit is so much more than just a negative number on a spreadsheet. You got to think of it as a huge flashing red light. It signals some serious financial trouble from the past. And here's the real kicker: it legally blocks a company from paying out dividends. No dividends means unhappy shareholders.
Now, this is super important for us here in the Philippines. We have something called the trust fund doctrine. Basically, the law treats a company's capital as a trust fund that's there to protect its creditors, the people and businesses it owes money to. You can't just let that capital get wiped out. So a massive ongoing deficit, that's a major red flag for the SEC because it threatens that very trust fund.
Okay, but what if the company has turned a corner? What if it's profitable now, but it's just being haunted by the ghosts of its past losses? Well, this is where the hero of our story comes in, the quasi-reorganization. And that's it right there. This quote perfectly nails the one single goal of this whole process. It's a surgical strike. The mission? Get rid of that deficit so the company's financial statements can reflect its current healthy state, not its troubled past.
Here's a great study hack for you. Just think of a quasi-reorganization as an accounting reboot. It's like when your laptop gets slow and buggy and you just turn it off and on again. It gives the company a fresh start, resetting its retained earnings to zero so it can start accumulating profits and, yes, finally pay out dividends again.
So how does a company actually pull this off? Well, there are two main roads they can take, and for your exam, knowing the difference between these two is absolutely crucial. Okay, pay attention because this is a critical distinction for the LECPA. On the left, you have deficit reclassification. It's the simple path. Think of it as just moving money from one pocket, like share premium, to another to cover the deficit. Simple transfer. But on the right, you have the accounting reorganization. This is the full makeover. You're not just moving money, you're reevaluating the worth of your assets and liabilities before you wipe out the deficit.
Now, let's walk through that more complex path, the accounting reorganization, step by step. This is where the real action is, and honestly, where most of the tricky exam questions come from.
The easiest way to remember this is with 3 words: restate, absorb, reset. Seriously, burn that into your brain. First, you restate your assets and liabilities to their true current market values. Second, you absorb those value changes plus the old deficit into your capital accounts. And third, you hit the big red button and reset your retained earnings to zero. Done. Fresh start complete.
Okay, let's look at a quick example. Here's a typical before snapshot. You can see that big, ugly deficit of 1.9 million pesos. And take note of the total shareholders' equity, 6.7 million pesos. Remember that number.
So this is step 1, restate in action. We figure out the property is actually worth 4 million more, but the inventory is worth 600,000 less. So the net effect of these adjustments is a gain of 3.4 million pesos.
And here's the after picture. Look at that. First things first, retained earnings is at a beautiful, clean zero. That was the whole point. So where did that 1.9 million deficit go? It got absorbed, along with that 3.4 million gain from our restatement. And check out the bottom line. The total shareholders' equity jumped from 6.7 million all the way up to 10.1 million. So what's the big takeaway? An accounting reorganization, because of those fair value adjustments, can actually change the total amount of shareholders' equity. And by how much? Exactly by the net amount of the adjustments. In our case, that was 3.4 million pesos. I guarantee you this is a classic exam question. They love to ask this.
All right, let's bring it all home. time for a high-speed review of the absolute must-know points for the CPA licensure exam. Ready? Let's do some rapid recall.
Okay, the basics. You do this when a company has a bad past but a good future. You have to get approval from both the shareholders and the SEC. The number one goal is to eliminate the deficit, and the ending balance of retained earnings must be zero, not 1 peso more or less, zero.
Now, this slide is a total exam hack, so listen up. There is a strict order of operations for how you absorb that deficit. First, you use up any revaluation surplus from restating your assets. If that's not enough, you go to your share premium next. And only as a final last resort do you touch the share capital itself. Remember that order. This is probably the number one trap students fall into, so let's make it crystal clear. If it's a simple deficit reclassification, total equity does not change. It's just moving numbers around inside equity. But if it's a full accounting reorganization with asset restatements, total equity does change. Got it? Also, one last detail. After the reset, the retained earnings account has to be dated for a few years, so everyone knows a fresh start happened. So let's end with this thought. A fresh start can be a powerful tool to give a good company a new lease on life. But it also makes you think, right? Is it a true picture of performance, or is it just really clever accounting? It just goes to show you how much power accounting rules have to completely reshape and retell a company's financial story.